History is often written by the victors, but sometimes it is quietly erased by the present. Today, Israel and Iran are locked in a fierce, seemingly eternal geopolitical rivalry, a clash framed as an inevitable conflict between two completely incompatible worlds. Most history books reinforce this by telling a very simple, linear story. The Jews lost Jerusalem to the Roman legions in 70 CE, scattered into a 2,000-year exile, and did not experience sovereignty again until the declaration of the modern state of Israel in 1948. But that clean narrative completely leaves out a chaotic, spectacular, and bloody chapter of history. It ignores a time when Persian armies and Jewish rebels marched shoulder to shoulder under the same banners, joined forces in a massive military coalition, and successfully conquered the Holy City. To understand how this happened, we have to look back to the early 7th century, a time when the known world was tearing itself apart. The brutal Byzantine-Sasanian War was the world war of its era, stretching across decades and exhausting two great superpowers. For the Jewish communities living under the rule of the Christian Byzantine Empire, life had become an unmitigated nightmare. They faced severe religious persecution, forced baptisms, heavy taxation, and outright legal exclusion from their holiest sites. They were a desperate people looking for a lifeline. Out of this darkness stepped a man named Nehemiah ben Hushiel. He was a deeply charismatic leader who arrived with immense political and religious authority. He was the son of the Babylonian Exilarch, the official leader of the Jewish diaspora in the Persian Empire, and he carried a lineage that traced directly back to the royal Davidic line. When the Persian-Sasanian army began its massive march into the Levant, Nehemiah saw a golden historic opportunity. He did not see the Persians as foreign conquerors. He saw them as divinely sent liberators, much like King Cyrus the Great had been centuries before. Nehemiah traveled through the region, using his lineage and his eloquence to rally the local populations. He raised a massive, formidable army, enlisting over 20,000 passionate Jewish soldiers from the towns of Galilee, Tiberias, and Nazareth. For these men, this was not just a political rebellion or a standard military campaign. It was a profound, eschatological awakening. They truly believed they were fighting to bring about the end of the world as they knew it. In the spring of 614 CE, this combined Persian and Jewish force arrived at the gates of Jerusalem. They laid a brutal, relentless siege to the city. After just 20 days of intense fighting, the walls were breached. The Byzantine garrison panicked and fled, leaving the city open. For the first time in over half a millennium, a Jewish leader held the keys to Jerusalem. The Roman ban keeping Jews from entering their holy city was shattered in an instant. The Persian king, Khosrow II, recognized Nehemiah's authority and officially appointed him as the governor of Jerusalem. Nehemiah wasted no time. He immediately established an autonomous Jewish administration, organized a council of sages to govern daily life, resorted the priesthood, and shockingly, rebuilt an altar to restore animal sacrifices directly on the Temple Mount. To the Jewish world, watching this unfold, ancient prophecies were visibly coming to life. Word spread like wildfire across the diaspora. Many did not just see Nehemiah as a capable political governor, they hailed him as the Messiah ben Joseph, the legendary, tragic warrior Messiah destined to wage war against the nations and pave the very way for final spiritual redemption. But messianic dreams rarely survive the cold, calculated realism of imperial geopolitics. Nehemiah's radical, rapid push for total Jewish independence quickly alienated the local Christian majority, sparking violent, bloody riots in the city streets. The Persian high command looked at the situation pragmatically. They realized that if they wanted to securely rule a heavily Christian Levant and expand their empire toward Egypt, they needed the compliance of the Christian populace. The Jewish rebels had served their tactical purpose by helping break the Byzantine grip, but now they were becoming a liability. In 617 CE, just 3 short years into Nehemiah's reign, the Persian court abruptly reversed its strategy. They stripped the Jewish leadership of its authority and threw their massive weight behind the Christian factions. According to the harrowing accounts in the historical text Sefer Zerubbabel, Nehemiah ben Hushiel and his closest advisors were brutally assassinated inside the city. His body was cast out before the gates of Jerusalem, left exposed to the elements. The brief, blinding dream of a re-established homeland and a third temple vanished almost overnight. Nehemiah ben Hushiel stands as the absolute last Jewish leader to rule over Jerusalem before the modern state was born. So why has this seismic historical event been completely sidelined by modern memory? First, it fundamentally disrupts the modern political script. The current geopolitical standoff frames Israelis and Iranians as natural, ancient, and civilizational enemies. Acknowledging that the last instance of Jewish sovereignty in Jerusalem before the mid-20th century was bought, paid for, and built directly upon a Persian military alliance introduces an uncomfortable reality. It complicates the clean, binary propaganda used by both sides today. Second, it directly challenges mainstream Zionist historiography. The standard national narrative relies heavily on a linear arc of total exile, powerlessness, and passive waiting from the fall of Rome all the way until the rise of modern Zionism. Discovering a highly aggressive, politically autonomous, and heavily armed Jewish statehood in the 7th century introduces an awkward intermission. It is a historical anomaly that does not fit neatly into the conventional story of a 1948 rebirth. Third, the story carries a deep, unresolved religious trauma. In Jewish collective memory, the events of Persian Jerusalem became a painful lesson in catastrophic disappointment. Nehemiah was a failed Messiah, and his sudden downfall proved to the sages of the era that foreign empires make for incredibly fickle patrons. As the rabbis later reflected with bitter hindsight, Khosrau was no Cyrus. The alliance was born of convenience, not conviction. Ultimately, the violence of Nehemiah's rebellion and the larger war utterly exhausted both the Byzantine and Persian empires. By tearing each other apart for decades, they left the entire Middle East completely vulnerable, clearing a path for the rapid Islamic conquests just a few decades later, an event that would reshape the region forever. History is rarely a straight line. It is a tapestry of forgotten alliances, brief triumphs, and highly inconvenient truths. Nehemiah ben Hushiel remains a ghost in the ancient stones of Jerusalem, a quiet reminder of a time when the Star of David and the Persian Lion marched together into battle under the exact same banner. Stories like this remind us that the past is far more complex than the headlines we see today. If you were moved by this forgotten chapter of history, and if you believe these hidden stories deserve to be remembered, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, share this video with someone who loves history, and hit that like button. Your support helps us dig deeper into the archives to bring these lost narratives back to light. Thank you for watching, and stay curious until next time.